Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am back in the building for a brand new content filled day of things. It is June the 3rd, 2026, and this is a brand new segment, brand new show. I don't even know what to call this, so for now, I'm calling it Culture Report until otherwise, facilitated. Today, we're going to be talking about an array of things. First, I just want to say that if you still tune in to any sort of rendition of me doing half a whole podcast, listening to me talk for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, I appreciate you. And I just wanted to get back to doing this because there were so many people that told me that I needed to continue doing this. Even though, for a while I had told myself, I'm never doing this again. I'm not interested in it anymore because, nobody listens. And, there was a time when I used to do this. I used to say I would do this for free. I like doing this. This is fun. So I'm getting back to doing this. It's Men's Mental Health Month, and you got to do what you love as a man. You got to do what makes you happy. So this is something that makes me happy. So let's get into it. So Idris Elba knelt before King Charles at Windsor Castle in England, and when he stood up, they said he was Sir Idris Elba, Knight of the British Empire. These are all the things I want to talk about today. Idrissa Puna Elba, born in Hackney, East London, to a father from Sierra Leone, one of the poorest boroughs in London in 1972. His father worked at Ford Dagenham plant. I hope I said that right. His mother was a clerical worker. He applied for a grant from what was then the Prince's Trust, founded by the man who just tapped a sword on his shoulders at the age of 18 to attend a National Youth Music Theater. The grant changed his trajectory. He went on to become Stringer Bell in The Wire, as most know him famously for, one of the most complex, most Shakespearean characters ever written for American television. He played Nelson Mandela in Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom. He built a parallel career as a DJ under the name Big Driz. He starred in Luther, one of my favorite shows. Underrated show. I don't think there's a lot of people in America that don't know about this show called Luther. It's almost like, how do I describe it? It's almost like a black Sherlock Holmes. That's how I would describe it. To Keep On Going, Beast of No Nations, Thor, Suicide Squad. He produced, he directed, he acted, he sang, he rapped, and kept building. And this is the part that doesn't get told enough. He and his wife Sabrina co-founded the Elba Hope Foundation in 2022. Not for press, not for a movie role, but because he remembered where he came from. The foundation helped raise over $1.75 billion to fight rural poverty. They raised $2 million for a COVID-19 rural poor stimulus fund, $6 million in debt relief for Somalia. They focus on youth advocacy, education, economic opportunity, and community empowerment. Today, which was, I believe that was yesterday, June the 2nd, King Charles knighted him for those services to young people. The sword came down on his shoulders at Windsor Castle, the same institution that once represented the empire that colonized his father's homeland. Just sit with that for a second. Now let's sit with the complexity of that for a second. Just like I said, because this is where the cultural conversation has to be honest. There is a legitimate critique of the British honor system. Particularly, it applies to Black and diaspora figures. The same crown that knighted Elba today is the same monarchy. We cannot forget that. Africa is still owed, whose empire extracted wealth from West Africa. We cannot forget that. From Sierra Leone, from Ghana, for centuries. The same crown whose colonial structures created the poverty that Elba Hope Foundation is now working to reverse. And yet, here is a man who used the Prince's Trust grant to build a life, who is now partnering with the King's Trust and the institution itself to change the futures of young people who look like him. Or is that strategic occupation of institutional power? I don't have the answer. I know this. The cynical, dismal, and the uncritical celebration are both intellectually lazy. What I'll say with certainty is that Idris Elba, Sir Idris Elba, responded to the honors with 5 words. We are thankful. The work continues. Not look how far I've come, not a photo op, 5 words and a foundational tag. That is a man who understands that honors don't build anything. Work builds things. The honor is just the world catching up to what you were already doing. And as a culture touchstone for the men listening to this, that is the standard, the work behind the ceremony. And I congratulate Idris Elba for overcoming so much in a place like the UK, Britain, London, as a black man, and all the struggles and survival he had to, bounty up and overcome. Shout out to Idris Elba. All right, segueing over, moving on. So now we're going to get into something very, very, very salacious, very hot right now. May 15th. May 15th is a special day for people who love Aubrey Graham, aka Drake. Dropped 3 albums simultaneously: Iceman, Habibti, and Maid of Honor. The rollout was theatrical, a release date frozen in a block of ice in Toronto, unveiled like a pharaoh's announcement. The Iceman alone has 18 tracks. It debuted with Make Them Cry, breaking Spotify's single-day streaming record for 2026. By any commercial metric, this was a massive moment, right? And buried inside it, across multiple tracks, was a coordinated assault on virtually every major figure Drake has been in conflict with. Kendrick Lamar, T, A$AP Rocky, Pharrell, Rick Ross, LeBron James, Dr. Dre, and most significantly, Jay-Z. You gotta ask yourself, rebranded as Jayz. I don't even know how to say that name correctly. Is it still just Jay-Z? Because I don't know. With an omelette deliberately returning to his Reasonable Doubt era identity, let me walk you through every Drake shot at Jay, bar by bar, and then we'll get to what happened 2 weeks later in Philly, which basically happened like yesterday or the day before, one of the two. Okay, shot number 1. Janice, shut the fuck up. Or Janice STFU, whichever one you want to say. You boys got big on my name. That's big enough. We know how you OGs rocking already. My nigga, the jig is up. Come on, it's almost self-explanatory. This is Drake claiming that Jay-Z's continued cultural relevance is partially built on proximity to Drake's commercial dominance. That the cosign Jay gave Drake in the early years returned more value to Jay than Jay gave to Drake. We know how you OGs rocking. This is Drake saying, I see the playbook. You stay silent. You move in shadows. You never respond publicly. That's your brand. And he was betting that Jay-Z had calculated into his own mythology that the man was too comfortable being a statue. He was wrong. Shot number 2, whisper my name. And I quote, I'll take $500K, not the dinner. I could never learn ish from none of y'all. This is the most precise surgical strike of the entire project, and to understand why, you need to know the reference. There is a long-running internet debate, a psychological question or a philosophical question, whatever it may be, that goes, would you rather have dinner with Jay-Z or receive 500,000, right? The implicit correct answer, the answer that elevates Jay, is take the dinner, because the wisdom you'd gain from Sean Carter could generate millions. Drake explicitly rejects that framework. He would take the cash. He implies that there is nothing Jay-Z can teach him that he hasn't already figured out on his own, which is crazy. And then, I could never learn ish from none of y'all. None, not Jay, not Wayne, not Pharrell, not the entire mentorship structure that shaped his career. This is the declaration of total independence from lineage. And it is either the most audacious statement of self-sufficiency in hip-hop history, or it is the most revealing confession of ego detached from reality. Because Drake did learn from Jay-Z. The lane building, the business structures, the branding, the way you occupy a cultural moment rather than just participating in it. Drake's entire business model has Jay's fingerprints on it. The difference is Drake wanted to inherit the throne without acknowledging the bloodline, where it came from. Shot number 3, make them pay. This is the album's most macro argument. Drake positions himself as the architect of an era that the old guard now benefits from without credit. The subtext towards Jay: you were already declining when I showed up, and my generation gave hip hop its global commercial peak. You should be thanking me. It's a sophisticated argument that has some structural truth to it. Drake's streaming dominance genuinely did help keep hip hop commercially dominant globally through the 2010s, which that's true. And it's also profoundly self-serving to the point of distortion. Now, here we have, I'm sure there's way more shots on that whole entire Iceman album, but those were like the main ones. Okay, so now I have set the stage. It is now the response from Jay-Z, Philadelphia, May 30th, 2026. Jay-Z headlines the Roots picnic at Belmont Plateau in Philadelphia. His first major live performance since joining Beyonce on stage in Paris last summer. He had been rebranded as, once again, it's basically his name with 2 dots at the top of his name. Bringing back the Almach from his first album, the 30th anniversary of Reasonable Doubt, new website, vinyl releases. The man was doing something intentional. He walked on stage and before performing, delivered a 4-minute freestyle. He told the Roots he was leaving it out of rehearsal. Nobody knew what was coming. Here are the standout bars and what they mean. Now, let me pull it up real quick. I may as well, so y'all can like really understand. Pull it up for you guys so y'all can see what it really is, because it won't make sense until you, I mean, if you haven't seen it, I gotta pull it up at least so you can like see what it is. C. All right, I'm gonna mute up real quick just to, find it real quick. Give me a second. All right, I think I found it. Put it on up here for you to see.
YouTube chicks, get ready. You know what to find. You know I like chicks move.
This is kind of what that feels like. Now, I did not see this one coming. Jay-Z got a bunch of shows this summer. The first one is Roots Picnic tonight in Philly. A lot of people had.
Let's go ahead. Let's get to it.
You can die on. There's way too much flack that comes from those planes. I'm killing them softly. What's understood don't need to be explained. You want it one way, it's the other. I still on you suckers, I'm mauling you niggas gang. I ain't much for meetings, no how. Cancel the brunches, I remember the hunger pain. The price of the bricks going up. You ever heard of a wonder king? My children and some of them, have you niggas no shame? Y'all trying to get under skin? I really get under skin as players. Y'all thugs with y'all thumbs again. Everybody think they're the ones insane. You're no maniac. Watch y'all saniac in my presence, nigga shrink. I need a new therapist. This shit is not working. I'm truly on the brink. Y'all better not encourage him. Y'all don't want me to think these thoughts that I think. That nut-ass nigga still stuttering. That chatty patty down on his luck again. What's introducing me to Jaguar? I don't know why I still fuck with him. That lady back on the stuff, she sound like she in love with him. Her kid can't even make their kids enough of them. A rapper can't be my eye. I got MAGA Republicans. Them shots came from the very top of the government. Good luck with them. I'm governed by God. You trying to break the government. I brain for 40 days, my neck get flooded again. Wrist get flooded again. Worth went up again. My next update, the jig is up. I'm up 10. Wrong chart, champ. You gotta look up again. Look up the hole. I never looked up to them. Yeah, Drake. Crackers got your publishing gangster. Go talk tough to them. In perpetuities, how your contract is. The Roots remember, even when the trees pretend. Not too much in my name. Don't forget who I am. Hattie loves her Shawnees. SHAWN. I find it adorable. She put the S at the end. I said, you don't know. The show ain't even again.
Now, he's not wrong. Jay definitely has more money than Drake, and Drake has been on record saying that he looks up to Jay. Now, this is a great way to set the pace for your shows, especially when you've got a bunch of shows lined up. Jay is absolutely outside, and he wants smoke this summer. So now that he's officially taken the bait from Drake, where do we go from here? Do we actually see Drake go into the studio to record a Jay-Z diss song? Or do we...
Now, after all of that just now, right? We got to go back. We got to look at what some of the things that he said to Drake, what he responded to Drake with, as opposed to all those shots that he had, taken Drake had taken towards Jay-Z, which I don't even know where this comes from. Like, is it because of the whole Kendrick Lamar beef that Drake is going after Jay-Z? I don't know. I have no idea. Which it wouldn't even, like, what's the point of that, bro? You like, he went from beef. Drake went from beefing with Kanye to beefing with Kendrick, Dr. Dre. Now he's beefing with Jay-Z. I mean, they've been basically beefing forever. But like, I don't know, man. So going back, he says the jig is up, and he was gonna cut it right there, as you saw in the clip. The jig is up. Nah, I'm up 10. Wrong chart, champ. Nas looked up to Hove. I never looked up to them. Oh wait, that was they. I don't know why I wrote that wrong. It says niggas looked up to Hove. I never looked up to them. Excuse me. Apologies. This is the most direct Drake response. Jay flips the jig is up line back with precision. You thought the jig was up. I'm up 10. Then he says, wrong chart, champ. Billboard score keeping, however you're measuring success, you're reading the wrong numbers. And then the devastating close. Niggas look up to Hove. I never looked up to them. This dismantles Drake's entire philosophical stance. Drake said he never learned anything from Jay. Jay responds, the relationship was always asymmetrical and you never understood that. You were looking up. I was never looking back. Or in this case, I was never looking down at you. We were never competitors. We were never peers. There is no beef between an institution and a tenant. That's basically what he's saying. Bar number 2 in Jay's response to Drake. A rapper can't be my op. 5 words. Let's let that breathe for it. A rapper, any rapper, including Drake, cannot occupy the category of opponent in Jay-Z's cosmetology, not because they're beneath him musically, but because the level at which Jay operates, ownership, legacy, institutional power, real estate, streaming infrastructure, the title play, the champagne brand, the generational wealth, that level doesn't have rappers as adversaries. It has systems as adversaries. This is not arrogance. This is a categorization. Jay is saying you brought a pen to a real estate transaction. I appreciate the poem. It doesn't affect my portfolio. Response number 3 from Jay. I really get under skin. Ask how I'm playing. I mean, this is very, very self-explanatory. This is a historical callback line. Is Lance Rivera, the music executive, Jay-Z, you know what I'm saying? Bow, bow. At a Manhattan nightclub in 1999 after Rivera allegedly leaked Volume 3 of Life and Times of Sean Carter before it was released. Jay pleaded guilty to third-degree assault. By invoking this, by saying acts how I get under skin, Jay is doing something that only works if you have a documented history. He's reminding every single listener that the phrase get under skin is not rhetorical for him. He has a court case attached to it. He has a body of evidence. I actually think it's pretty funny. Not funny that, the dude got, poked for leaking somebody's music, but, just crazy of a callback that it is. Drake has never physically demonstrated that level of consequence. He has diss tracks. Jay has a criminal record. Those are not morally equivalent. But in the context of hip-hop credibility, there is a reason this line landed the way it did. Okay, so the bottom line on this entire saga. Drake made the fundamental mistake of declaring himself post-lineage while his entire methodology is the lineage. His business model is Jay's model. His silence, then drop promotional strategy is Jay's strategy. His brand over music transition is Jay's transition. The only difference is Drake declared it instead of demonstrating it. And Jay-Z shows in 4 minutes of a freestyle at a picnic in Philadelphia, and he said everything he needed to say. Then he went back to his life. That is the difference between performance and power. And really, truly, to be honest, I don't think we get like a back and forth from Jay and Drake. Honestly, Drake's gonna go on about his business, release another 4-pack, 5-pack of music. He might. I'm pretty sure he has more shots for Jay-Z on his next project, which is coming very soon. But Jay-Z responding back again, I doubt that's happening. So to segue on, okay. So in my next segment, I'm going to be talking about the Kendrick Toronto narrative collapse. And what is that? Let me be precise about what happened and what was claimed, because they are two different things, right? Okay, the fact is Kendrick Lamar and SZA brought the Grand National Tour to Toronto on June 12th and 13th of 2025. They sold out a two-night shows at Rogers Center, Drake's very own city. Kendrick performed Not Like Us to an audience that rapped every word back to him. By the way, I just want to throw this in there real quick. This is another fact. ASAP Rocky recently on his, I believe it's the Don't Be Dumb tour, he has actually had shows in Canada, in Toronto and Montreal, the city where I was born at, that they have given Kendrick Lamar, given him a well-polished response to his music, you know? So back to it. So another fact, DJ Academics claimed Drake told him the Toronto Police Service had 2 cars stationed outside his home during Kendrick Lamar's Toronto run. Here's a narrative spin. The Drake camp and the internet ecosystem built around protecting his image ran with this evidence that Kendrick was scared, that Kendrick needed law enforcement protection just to perform in Toronto, which is weird because when Drake was beefing with Meek Mill and he went to perform in Philadelphia, Drake had like 1,500, like every single police officer in Philadelphia getting him out of Philadelphia. It's so weird that these narratives get created like that. And it's just like, bro, at the end of the day, it just feels like it's not real life because it's just on the internet. Anybody can just come up and just say anything, and a whole section of the internet is just going to run with that because it's speculation at the end of the day. That is all it is. And I need you to apply logic here because it's embarrassing at some points. If Kendrick had enough pull to have the Toronto Police Service, the local PD of Drake's own city, oriented around his presence, around his safety, around his tour logistics, doesn't that confirm Kendrick's power? If the police of your own home city prioritizes your opponent's safety over your own comfort in your own mansion, who actually runs that city? Exactly. Doesn't Drake doesn't Drake have like real pull in the city of Toronto? Like, didn't he like record music in the government's like offices or something like that? Like, come on, this dude like has like real pull. Why would Toronto? I mean, honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like Toronto, like like Canada takes, you know, threats very seriously. So it's like when a rapper who is an opposing rapper, who is basically your op, comes to your city, the police is like, oh, hell no, you're not going to go mess around and do anything, Drake. You're going to sit right here. We're going to watch you. Because I do remember a time when Pusha T went to Canada. And I'm not saying he did. I'm not saying that they was throwing stuff at him. You know, they just started throwing, people in Toronto just start in the crowd of his show, just start throwing mad stuff at him. And then Pusha T's security got involved and started like beating up people in the crowd who were throwing stuff. So it's like, I'm not saying anything, but at the same time, you got to apply, once again, you have to apply logic here. Also, another thing, there was something that happened with like the Weeknd's, I don't know, is it his manager or something like that got popped? So there could be something there that happened with that, and trying to make sure Drake don't go nowhere. So Drake is supposed to be the president of Toronto. That's his whole brand. He named it the Six. He built the city's global identity. And you're telling me that when the enemy shows up, Drake was in his house while the police were watching Kendrick back? Stop it. The narrative just doesn't fall. It falls flat and it fails. It inverts. Every piece of evidence presented to make Drake look powerful actually demonstrates the opposite. And this is the super deep cultural issue. The machine that protects Drake's image has been generating competing narratives. He's plotting, he's regrouping. Kendrick was scared. The fake tough guy act is theater, and none of them survive contact with facts. The fandom deserves better than spin. The intelligence of real hip-hop listeners shouldn't be insulted like this. You cannot tell me the president of a city hid in his house while the challenger threw a concert 2 nights in a row and have that be a W. I'm just saying, like, come on. Oh, and then the stuff with Top 5 saying he's gonna do something to Kendrick when he comes to Toronto. Like, who, like, you think I'm gonna stay in this city when your boy threatens me. Like, come on, bro. I'm getting out of here and I'm going to New York. You can call me what you want to, but I'm making it home to my family. So we're going to keep on going. Segue. Yeah. So, gotta put this back up real quick. TMZ has confirmed that Lil Wayne, 43 years old, has reportedly been engaged since earlier this year to a woman in her 20s from Indiana. Private proposal, no announcement, completely off the radar. At the same time, Denise Bidot, that's her name, his most recent ex, accused him of ending their relationship on Mother's Day 2025 and allegedly emotionally and then physically abusing her. Wayne has not publicly responded to any of it. Here's what I want to say about Dwayne Michael Carter Jr. that the Discord constantly skips past. Between 2006 and 2009, Lil Wayne was arguably the single most dominant artist in hip-hop history, right? Not popular, dominant. He was on every record. He was better than everyone. He was on the record with, he was innovating in real time, the melodic cadence, the metaphor density, the stream of consciousness construction, while simultaneously pushing volume that no single artist had sustained at the quality level. And what happened to him? The cash money situation, the years fighting Birdman to release the Carter 5, the lawsuit, the legal battles to his own catalog is one of the most significant ongoing injustices in the American music industry. He said this year that he felt uninvited and uninvolved from Coachella and the Grammys. At 43, with the Carter 3 in the culture permanently, with a tour celebrating 20 plus years of one of hip hop's greatest album series. So if this man quietly proposed to someone in Indiana, kept it private, that TMZ had to break it months later and responded to all of it with silence, that is not naivety. That is a man protecting one corner of his life from a world that has consumed everything else. Let him have that. He has earned that peace. You know? Shout out to Lil Wayne. All right, segueing on. Now, something I feel like is a big thing to me, just in my opinion. Netflix and Michael Jackson, the posthumous prosecution problem. You'd think that, you know, somebody like Michael Jackson, who has been gone from us for a long time, can, you know, rest in peace. But all the enemy of the man's legacy, just, they work tirelessly. The man's been gone. But even in him not being on this earth anymore, they still work and plot. There's so many things we have to get into about this Netflix documentary, what it is. So let's get into it. Netflix's 3-part documentary, Michael Jackson, The Verdict, will premiere. Oh, wait, it premieres today, June 3rd. It revisits the 2005 criminal trial, the trial where he was acquitted on all counts. The backlash was immediate. Hashtag cancel Netflix, change.org petitions, fans calling it exploitation. The timing is undeniable. The Michael biopic just crossed 700 million globally. Billie Jean hit #1 on Spotify. And Netflix pivots immediately to the controversy the biopic deliberately avoided. Let me hold both truths simultaneously, okay? The fans are right to be frustrated. Michael Jackson was acquitted in a court of law. The standard we apply to street-level defendants with public defenders should apply, at minimum, to the most famous entertainer in human history. Innocence is innocence, regardless of cultural convenience, right? And the filmmakers are not wrong that the trial was massively undercovered. I don't think that way. Hold on, my notes. It says that, to me, let me go off of my script real quick. This is just how I feel about it. This is what I'm gonna say, right? It happened. We cannot go back and revisit something that already, we cannot go back and revisit and try to make it out to be, oh yeah, they missed this and they missed that. Like, bro, the trial already happened. He was acquitted. There's nothing else to say. Like, yeah, bro, Michael Jackson has been getting attacked since he became an adult and became a big star. Like, he was forever getting attacked, bro. Even in, like, him being deceased, they are still going. Like, that Finding Neverland documentary, waste of time. You know, there's been books that have been written, so many different things, bro. Like, you didn't get enough out of him and his family when he was, like, here on this earth. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. The line is this: there's a difference between examining the trial record and regurgitating a verdict. You know, there's a line somewhere. I'll say this: black male entertainers who accumulated generational wealth, global cultural power, and institutional independence, they tend to become more useful to certain systems, dead and complicated than alive and celebrated. That's not a conspiracy theory. That is documented, reoccurring, traceable pattern. You know, I don't get it. This man somehow was like the biggest threat to the music industry, and they did it. The music industry and the media, they were the biggest threat to him, and they wanted him gone years and years. Even his own record company was sabotaging him because he was making music that was bringing people together. He was bringing the world together. It's like, and I know, and I hate to go back to Drake, but the comparison of Drake to Michael Jackson, I think, is very disrespectful. Drake and Michael Jackson shouldn't even be in the same sentence at all. Michael Jackson's music is timeless. My mom's generation, my mother and father's generation, my generation know his music. It's going to be kids that are going to be born 20 years from now that are going to know who Michael Jackson is. That is what you call that's like a lifetime of just good music that will forever live on as its like own legacy. That's something you can't get in today's music at all. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I don't intend on watching that Netflix documentary because who's got time to watch something that's rehashing something? Like, come on. It's like rehashing the OJ Simpson trial again to say, oh yeah, there's something that wasn't like, there's something that wasn't added to the trial, or, you know, just one little spectacle of a finding, and they decide to just put it in there and just rehash the same old stuff again that happened with the trial. That's basically what this is. It's basically what this is. I mean, you can watch it if you want, but I mean, you're hearing the same stuff again. And if you want the truth, the truth is there. The truth is out there. You don't need to watch some bogus hit piece, you know? Honestly, that's the truth about it. So moving on to the next thing, segueing over to the Knicks versus the Spurs. NBA Finals actually is before we get into our X's and O's. Knicks versus Spurs 2026. It's a rematch of 1999 when Tim Duncan won his first ring against the same franchise 27 years later. Victor Wembanyama chasing his first ring against the same franchise. That is not a coincidence. That is a universe being a writer. The Knicks went on an 11-game winning streak through the Eastern Conference playoffs. 11 games. Average margin of victory is 23.8 points. They swept the 76ers. They swept the Cavaliers. Jalen Brunson has been averaging 26.9 points over 14 playoff games, third among all scorers. This is the most dominant Knicks playoff run in franchise history in their first finals appearance since 1999. Can you believe that? The Spurs. I almost can't believe it. It's like a one and done thing. I don't think we're ever going to see Oklahoma City back in the NBA Finals again after this point. The defending champions with the back-to-back MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and they won Game 7 on the road on the strength of Victor Wembanyama, putting up 28 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 blocks, while recording historically an unprecedented defensive metric. He became the first player in the NBA history to record 15 plus 3-pointers and 15 plus blocks in a single playoff series. He is 22 years old. He is the 2026 Defensive Player of the Year. He is 7'4" and moves like a guard. Now, let me give you the theory for how this series gets decided. The Brunson problem. Jalen Brunson is a basketball wizard. 6'2", operating in contested space, finding angles that physics suggests should be closed. He torched SGA and the Thunder. He's been unstoppable for 2 full months, but here's a specific problem for the Spurs. The entire defense scheme is a maze. Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper, the young wing duo guarding the perimeter, press you out front, and then Wembanyama waits at the rim. Not like most rim protectors wait. He can contest from angles that shouldn't be reachable. He rotates in a fraction of a second. Then the pick and roll. Brunson's whole game gets disrupted at 2 different points simultaneously. Karl Anthony Towns is an elite offensive big. He can stretch the floor, hit threes, operate in the post, but he's foul prone. Always has been against Wembanyama, who initiates contact intelligently, who moves into defenders in ways that draw calls. Cat is going to spend time on the bench, and Mitchell Robinson, playing with a broken pinky, can't fully compensate. The Knicks had 9 days off before this game 1. 9. The Spurs came out of a grueling game 7 2 days earlier. The scout quoted by ESPN said it plainly: there may be an emotional hangover, but flip it. 9 days off also means rust. Thibodeau teams stay ready, but rhythm is real. Okay, so I did predict that the Knicks would win in maybe I want to say 5 games, but I do want to retract that and say that the Spurs will win in 6 games. Wembanyama is going to win the Finals MVP, and here's why. The Knicks win games 3 and 4 at Madison Square Garden because it's MSG. The New York is the loudest building in America. MSG is the loudest building in America, and home teams convert that energy. But when the series goes back to San Antonio for games 5 and 6, Frost Bank Center becomes something different. And Wembanyama, chasing his first ring 27 years after Duncan won his first against the same franchise, will close it out. And also, just another theory is that I don't think the crowd control, New York is going to have Armageddon, literally. So that's why I say they're probably going to go the safer route, and San Antonio winning the title is going to be a deciding factor, just because San Antonio is, I've always said that, and this, no offense to anybody who's a San Antonio fan, but San Antonio is the most boring basketball team of all time. They're so boring because they're so fundamental. That fundamental basketball stuff that Coach Greg Popovich was doing back in the day, so boring. No moves, nothing flashy, none of that. Just pure fundamental basketball. So boring. And the NBA loved the fundamental basketball so much that they was going to that chip more than you could count, man. Legendary bouts with the Lakers, legendary bouts with Miami, so on and so forth, But yeah, San Antonio is going to take it home. Just based off of the narrative of New York and them not having a championship since 1970, and all that's going to come with that, it's going to go to San Antonio. Just because San Antonio is a calmer place. It's a small, San Antonio's in the South. Small area, they don't do all that extra stuff because they've been to the big dance, quite a few different times in the past 10 plus years. So yeah, it's going to be San Antonio, and San Antonio in 6. Okay, segueing over once again. Here we are once again with another that's been trending. Oh my gosh, the spicy bowl era. Takis, everything, Kool-Aid, pineapples. Bro, pineapple with, elotes cups in 3 different flavors. And now this summer we got flavored Hennessy. I said that right. Flavored Hennessy. The cognac house, founded in 1765. The drink that has functioned as a cultural constant across Black celebrations, Black mourning, Black milestones, and Black Friday nights for over half a decade, is releasing flavors like it's Jolly Rancher. And somewhere in a building that doesn't have windows, someone is doing cartwheels and backflip. Let me be clear. I'm not a food purist. I'm not sitting here in a linen suit telling you what condiments to put on your chicken, but pattern recognition is a gift. And here is the pattern. Every time a cultural institution rooted in intention consumption gets flavored, gets sweetened, gets saucified, gets made more accessible to impulse, the cultural practice around it degrades. Ceremonial quality dissolves. The thing becomes a stimulus instead of a ritual. Hennessy wasn't originally a party drink in American Black culture. It became one through association. Tupac, Jay-Z, every function you've been to in the last 30 years, it carries history, it carries meaning. And the moment you can choose between original Hennessy and mango Hennessy at the same price point, you've introduced a dopamine variable that competes with the ritual loses. Now apply that to the broader cultural conversation about attention span, about the algorithm, about how Gen Z consumes music and 15-second clips about how news cycles collapse into memes before the facts are even established. We have been marinating in a culture of hyperstimulation for so long that the baseline expectation has shifted. The CIA, metaphorically speaking, and I say metaphorically but barely, doesn't need to do anything dramatic. They just need the trend cycle to move faster than the reflection cycle. And right now it is. The spicy bowl era is dying, but the infrastructure that created it is still fully operational. And let me also say that there are health warnings concerning this Kool-Aid pineapple trend. Why are people putting Kool-Aid inside of the pineapples you get at the store? Like, it's like they say that it's like equivalent, having Kool-Aid pineapples is the equivalent of drinking 10 cans of Coca-Cola. Like, I just saw a post of somebody, and I wish I could find the post. I just saw a post of somebody saying that their cousin went to the hospital and almost died because of doing the pineapple Kool-Aid challenge. It's absolutely sickening. And then if you're diabetic, the person is diabetic and they went into a diabetic coma and almost lost their life because they were just doing something that they saw on the internet. Like, come on, man. We got to do better as a people. You know, we can't let wherever this trend came from, the spicy bowl trend, the Kool-Aid pineapple trend, whatever trend else that is being cooked up, we can't let it get the better of us as a people. You know, gotta be better than that. We gotta be smarter than that. All right, segueing over. Okay, so Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, Canadian businessman with an established estimated net worth of 400 million, said this on the Diary of a CEO podcast. He said, "I can't stand when I see kids making $70,000 a year spending $28 on lunch." Think about that in the context of that being put in an index and making 8 to 10% a year for the next 50 years. For some reason, the internet exploded over something he said. I mean, which I do understand, because why is a millionaire commenting on average people's thought to spend $28 on lunch? Who cares? It's their money. Let them spend the money how they want to. Nobody comments on how much your suit is, or how much your shoes are, or how much the Rolex is that you're wearing, because you're rich, Kevin O'Leary. You are rich, and when you're a rich person, no broke person can tell you anything. So why tell somebody who isn't even in the same tax bracket as you what they can and can't do with money, especially spending an amount of money on lunch that mean, you know, it's what they want to eat, whatever it is that they want to eat. But to even go even further, deep dive into it, if the math is mathing correctly, a $28 weekly lunch habit is about $1,400 a year, invested consistently at 8% annually over 50 years, approximately $835,000. 5 lunches a week at $28 becomes $7,200 a year. Over 50 years at 8% over $4 million. The math is not wrong. Compound interest is the most powerful wealth building mechanism available to people who don't inherit money. And most people have profoundly poor financial literacy, even myself. I mean, he's not wrong about it. Here's the part where the $400 million net worth becomes a credible product. A $70,000 salary is gross income. A federal tax, state tax, FICA, health insurance, student loan payments, which the average Gen Z worker carries in quantities boomers didn't face. Rent in any major metropolitan area, car payments or transit, utilities and groceries. That's $70,000. Doesn't have $28 of discretion, daily lunch money in it. That $28 lunch money might be the only warm, convenient, emotional, sustainable moment in a 12-hour workday. To put it precisely, the generation that put the nation $39 trillion in debt condemns Gen Z for spending irresponsibly. That's a joke, but the underlying point isn't, right? The psychological, honest version of this conversation has 2 levels. At level 1, yes, financial discipline is real. Compound interest is real, and intentional spending is a skill that needs to be taught and practiced. O'Leary isn't wrong that small habits compound over time. At level 2, the reason Gen Z starts spending $28 on lunch bowls isn't stupidity, it's deferred joy. When the housing market is inaccessible, when wages haven't kept pace with inflation since the 1970s, when the social contract that promised work hard, save, own a house, retire comfortably has been clearly and demonstrably broken, people start spending money on the pleasures that remain available. The $28 lunch is a small scale reclamation of in an economic system that has stripped most other markets of middle class aspirations off the table. You cannot reduce a generation's financial behavior to behavioral failure without addressing the structural context in which that behavior exists. The full answer is O'Leary is right about the mechanism. He's wrong about the diagnosis. And now, gotta get back to the sauce, right? Let me talk about Albert Walker Mundane, born June 29th, 1990, in Houston, Texas, professionally known as Sauce Walka, the drip god, the sauce father. Sauce Walka is one of the most polarizing figures in Houston hip hop. And because this is the Culture Report and we operate on truth, let me give you the full picture. He built something real, not just him by itself, but him, the Sauce Twins, the Sauce Factory, his record label, his independent operation, his own infrastructure. He has over 20 mixtapes. He's built a fan base through sheer volume, through consistent presence, through a Houston identity that is unflinching. He is a unapologetic version of Houston energy. He was on A$AP Rocky's Don't Be Dumb album in 2026 on Stop Snitching, which is either a flex or an irony depending on your perspective. He has claimed publicly to have made over $6 million on OnlyFans across 7 years. His baby mama recently exposed what appeared to be a Capital One account screenshot showing some figures with the public drama around his finances, and his co-parenting situation is ongoing. Here's what I want to say about Sauce Walka from a cultural standpoint. He is Houston's most authentic independent voice and also Houston's most combustible public figure simultaneously. The city has always had that tension. Trey the Truth is the civic heart. Paul Wall and Bumby are the ambassadors. Sauce Walka is the raw nerd, the unfiltered, unpolished, fully committed representation of a corner of Houston that doesn't get to exist comfortably in mainstream discourse. The public contradiction between the OnlyFans wealth claim and the exposed account screenshots is genuinely worth discussing, not because it's funny, but because it speaks to a cultural expectation in rap that the image must always outpace the reality, that you flex regardless. The admitting complexity is a weakness. That is a trap, and it catches people at every level of the industry. What Sauce Walka represents at its best is independent Houston hip hop surviving, building without institutional cosigns. What he represents at the most complicated, what happens when the image more maintenance than the actual business. Respect the talent, challenge the narrative. I don't really want to speak too much about, his doings or anything like that. I just rather hear new albums and new mixtapes. I don't really care about the drama surrounding him and his baby mama, to be honest with you. I don't care for gossip too much. This is not really a gossip podcast or anything like that. I showcase truth in this thing. I don't go for cheap gossip like other podcasts do. Let's keep on going. We're going to segue to idea, conspiracy, or both. I don't know. I think I typed something into AI and asked AI to give me something. The 15-minute city concept was developed by Professor Carlos Moreno at the University of Paris in 2010. The core idea: design urban neighborhoods so that a resident could access everything they need for daily life: groceries, healthcare, school, work, parks, transit, within a 15-minute walk or a bike ride from their home. That's it. On its face, that is an urban planning framework aimed at reducing commute times, carbon emissions, and vehicle dependency. Paris has invested hundreds of millions of dollars in cycling infrastructure based on this model. Cities like Melbourne, Portland, and Barcelona have incorporated similar principles. The idea itself is not sinister. Most people, if you described it without the name, would say it sounds sensible. Okay. In 2023, far-right commentators and then mainstream politicians began framing the 15-minute city as the first stage of a climate lockdown. The claim was governments would force people to stay in their design zones, restrict car travel, and track movement. Jordan Peterson tweeted about idiot tyrannical bureaucrats deciding where you're allowed to drive. Mark Moreno on Fox News compared it to East Germany. Is this real? The conspiracy is that literally geographic lockdowns, zone-based movement restrictions, GPS tracking of residents has no evidentiary foundation. No city implementing 15-minute city planning has restricted movement. You can draw wherever you want in Paris, Oxford, or Melbourne. The conspiracy version is fabricated. But the question underneath the conspiracy is who benefits from urban decentralization and who gets displaced? Is it a legitimate question? Because every walkable neighborhood and mixed use development come to a city. What follows is often gentrification, rent increases, the displacement of lower income residents who cannot afford the improvised neighborhood. The 15-minute city as a urban planning tool that without robust anti-displacement policy can hollow out communities of color and lower income residents. That is a real and documented pattern. The conspiracy theorists are pointing out that the wrong mechanism, but sensing something real, that the most dangerous kind of misinformation, it takes a legitimate structural concern and routes it through a false narrative that prevents the actual problem from being addressed. Okay, segue once again into my next segment. Tyler, the creator of DJ Drama's Gangsta Grills podcast. Oh man, you know, sometimes Tyler the Creator is somebody you love to hate just based on the fact that, like, I don't know, the things that he says about hip hop is just like, it's cool to hear him say it, but at the same time it's just like, I don't think he's respected enough to where like he can make some of these claims. But just getting into it, he appeared on DJ Drama's Gangsta Grills podcast, the Audible original series where Drama sits down with artists who define the mixtape era. The episode covers their collaboration Call Me If You Get Lost, which won the Best Grammy for Best Rap Album in 2022, stands as one of the most precisely crafted hip-hop albums in the last decade. All right, here's what the conversation reveals. Tyler, that most discourses miss about him. His influences are not who we think. It says that Tyler names Q-Tip, Native Tongues, A Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, the Jungle Brothers, were defined as musicality, intellectual curiosity, and emotional honesty, and an anti-cool version of cool. They didn't chase street credibility. They built their own language and the culture eventually came to them, right? Okay. Tyler did the same thing with Bastard and Goblin. Deliberately transgressive. Wolf and Cherry Bomb were transitional. Flower Boy is where you heard the Native Tongues DNA fully activated. The lushness, the emotional vulnerability, the refusal to perform a hardness that wasn't real. And then Call Me If You Get Lost is Tyler's full understanding from the mixtape form. The Gangsta Grills format specifically, and the reverse engineering it with modern production intelligence. He studied Drama's catalog. He understood that the DJ as narrator and co-author was what made those tapes function as complete experiences, not just a collection of songs. So also, what Tyler understands about longevity. In the podcast conversation, Tyler is asked about his place in hip hop, and what he articulates in his fast moving way is that he's never been interested in competing for a position someone else defined. He builds rooms and then invites people in. That is the only sustainable model for longevity in creative work. You don't fight a throne. You build a house that didn't exist before you arrived. Why this matters, is the Gangsta Girls podcast itself is a document. It's DJ Drama, the man who literally went to prison for selling mixtapes in 2007, when the recording industry raided his operation Naughty by Nature, now creating an Audible original with Kenya Bears production company sitting across from Grammy Award winning artists and unpacking what those tapes meant. Now, there's one thing I do want to highlight real quick, and it's something along the lines of Tyler the Creator saying your top five doesn't matter. I've heard him say this before, and it's just like he said it before and it wasn't really it doesn't really pick up steam, and he said it again, and it's just like it's never really gonna pick up steam because you can't tell people how to feel about top five is a passionate debate and discussion that will never end. It's like arguing in a barbershop about certain things. It's a dead horse you're beating that will never stop, you know? So you can keep saying that, oh, yeah, you telling me about your top five is this and that and the third, but it's like you're a 16-year-old kid. What do you know about Biggie? You know, it's just like, let those people have their moments and have their favorite artists, you know? Like all of the people that love you, half of them are like white people. So it's like, who are you to tell somebody what they can, who they like, what they, you know, them wanting to have a top five. Like let them be passionate about what they like, you know. People are passionate about movies and comic books and all of that, and they have, all those people got top fives too. People who are historians have top five periods in all of civilization. Why can't they have that? Let them have it. I'm just gonna stop it here, man, honestly, because I've been going for like a whole hour, and if I continue, I'm gonna it's gonna be time for me to go to bed. So I'm gonna stop right here. This has been the Culture Report. I hope you have enjoyed the ride, and just do your due diligence to manage as much as you can and do whatever you need to do to make yourself happy. Y'all take it easy.